much, or they don't want to be corporal punished, so to speak. Doggone it. Once you get them while they're young, when they get up, they understand. That's embarrassing.
Now you got the Bible. But see, that's why I said that you are pro corporal punishment, even though it was used to a minimal and it was only a few. That's what I'm saying. See, see, it was at a minimal, but still you incorporate, because if you didn't believe in it, you never would have done it, period. So, and I do understand what you're saying about having incentives and taking away those privileges. Right, and you try to do both of them.
Because like when you become an adult, you get whooped in the pocketbook. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you groom them from when they just totally wild as they mature.
Right.
You give them a more mature stage of punishment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But it's so crazy to me how, government, or like I say, the powers that be will say, they try to legislate in our homes what we should and shouldn't do. And once they come into contact with law enforcement, there is no, what do they call it? What kind of love is that they call it?
Tough love.
Tough love. Parents know how, most parents, I'll say that, know how to administer tough love. There's a judge who is on TV. I really respect and admire him. He was on the other side of criminal law, as far as he was a criminal, and I don't want to say his name, but anyway, this particular judge.
Say his name?
No, he talks about that tough love, and he said it worked for him, and he believes in it. However, his issue comes in when parents don't know where to draw the line with discipline, and since Dula doesn't want to say corporal punishment, but with administering that tough love, okay, from a parent, because I'm telling you, cops won't do that. They're not going to see our children as their children. Most of them, they're not. They're not.
And when you don't want to be whooping your child out of anger,
right?
That's when it gets out of hand. You got to know, regardless, I don't feel like doing this, but he need his tail broke off for this one. You know what I'm saying?
Right. There are some things that just deserve, in my estimation, and I do a lot, me personally, I do a lot more fussing. I didn't say cussing. I do a lot more fussing. And I think one of my older daughters, she used to say, Mama, you fuss so much. I said, it's better than cussing or going upside your head. I wouldn't even need to fuss at you or get onto you if you would play by the rules. Just do what I'm asking you to do. Just follow these rules until you get to be a certain age. And then, if you staying out of my husband's pocket, then you go for what you know and do what you got to do. But other than that, I do believe in the Bible as far as when it says that we should correct our
spell a rod or whatever.
Yeah, but it's another one that says the rod of correction will drive out that spirit. So I'm paraphrasing, but it does.
Whoop the devil up out of them.
Well, whatever spirit it is, a rebellious spirit or whatever.
If you look at all you gotta do is look at the facts. Folks who got a little heat on their tail, look at how they turn it. These children who ain't got nobody telling them what to do, all you gotta look at how foolish they act.
Well,
you feel what I'm saying?
That was the conversation, and that's why we're discussing this today, because this was not originally a part of my conversation, but Pastor R was teasing here about getting on to one of my babies, and I was like, you are definitely not going to tell me.
Like Celia on Color Purple, beat her,
right. You told Harpo to beat me. So he said he turned out fine. And I said, well, he said, I ain't in the penitentiary. So I'm thinking, well, there are people who were beat. I don't know how the discipline was administered, meaning I don't know if the parents, as you say, Dula, were angry when they disciplined them. I don't know what they were,
They don't have a lot of people don't sit down and talk to them now. You getting his tail whooping because of this him.
Well, listen.
And you know what I'm saying? Most of them just fly out the handle, whoop, knocking the fire from them.
And that's what I'm saying.
And they can't even gather themselves. And if they didn't know what was wrong, they might have thought it was copacetic because they see you doing it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And so my thing is, see, there are so many variables that we can add into this because, I can say there are people who were administered tough love too, and they're still in the penitentiary. I'm being funny, messing with my husband, but they are still in the pen. But see, I don't know what kind of, but I don't know what kind of discipline their parents gave to them. You understand? They could have only discipline they could have seen or felt was when their parents were angry. Fighting with their fists, picking up any and everything, cussing them out.
That's how children learn that they watch you.
Right. So I don't know if that was the issue or what, but what you say?
Hey.
Was you about to cuss, Pastor Arthur? It looked like you about to say a cuss word. Were you about to cuss? Hey.
I didn't know it was going to do that. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. You know it's going to do that. But anyway, Dula, seriously, parents, 901-260-5926, 901-260-5926. Don't know how you feel, but as I put it out here, this is my disclaimer. Dr. Rich is in favor of tough love. That means administering some form of physical punishment. And I have to say it that way because some people just, do a little bit, depending on it. Or some people may get a belt, or some people, but I'm telling you, we walk a thin line when we say corporal punishment and discipline, because if there are scars or bruises left or things like that, then the state or the authorities can get involved, and it's tough because things that parents used to do back in the day, it's not acceptable or allowable. It may not have even been acceptable back then, but it was permissible. You didn't see a lot of parents getting brought up on abuse charges, but today,
whenever you can make $1 off anything and sue and all this stuff, is backfiring on the morals of folk, these children. And all you gotta do is look at him, look at them. Most of the last generation back in 73, 70,
hey Camille,
72, 71. You don't see them carrying out. They still got a certain amount of respect and different things like that. But for the most part, these children now, they hit the side. The children talk to their parents in a kind of way, don't have no kind of boundaries and respect. You know what I'm saying? And therefore now got a generation don't know how to handle anger, don't know how to handle any kind of altercation. They get the gun and shoot. Now we got all this crime that we seeing now. And it's the direct result of parents not parenting and using discipline and getting their tail when they needed to get their tail.
Yeah, but some parents do use discipline, but I'm not necessarily certain that it's the proper type of discipline. Meaning, I'm not trying to legislate anybody's home, but what I'm saying is, if we're doing it when we're angry and we're agitated about other things, all of that, as having studied in undergrad, in my teaching undergrad degree, I realized through psychology that all of that affects the growth and the development of a child. You remember when I was in school, Pastor R, some of those classes, those courses, as my electives, I took on and learned so much about how those type of things shape the development of our children, psychologically, emotionally, physiologically, and all of that. So, and then we pass that type of behavior pattern on, and those children grow up to believe that that's okay. What you think, Pastor Ari? I mean, you were one who sparked this type of conversation, because I actually was going to talk about cheating again, I'm
glad you staying away from all that.
No, I'm going back to it. But Pastor Ari,
you got about 20 men put out the house last week.
Well, they need to stop DMing women. They need to stay out of these women's DMs. But today I'm going to take it a little bit in a different course. What do you think, Pastor Ari? You said you were a recipient of corporal punishment or tough love.
Recipient.
Yeah, he received. Dula, I have to be smooth and phrase it a certain way. He received corporal punishment.
Man, you cold.
He's so cold.
Recipient.
Listen, he was. He was on the receiving end of corporal punishment. How did it work for you, Pastor R?
Ain't in the penitentiary.
Well,
he's not in the penitentiary. He's not.
Well, we have a lot of lawyers, doctors, politicians. We have a lot of scientists, sociologists, psychologists, who are now bound and incarcerated and really entrapped in the justice system. Some has been given life sentences, and anywhere from 25 years to life for making bad judgment calls. And I think corporate punishment in the home is most definitely needed, but it also needs a balance of both parents, because just whipping them all the time is not going to really get a child on the straight and narrow. Because sometimes your whippings can kind of turn into beatings, and beatings can kind of cause abuse. Your child abuse will cause abuse, and that will cause your child to start having, some what they call it, PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some kind of
post-traumatic.
Yeah, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's not just only something that occurs out when you're out at war, but it's something that happens right in your neighborhood. Post-traumatic stress can be caused by any traumatic experience. So I think beating your child can cause that too. So I don't really believe just beating them just right out all over their body, just whipping them all over their face and neck and backs. But I do believe that if you have a paddle or something, give them like 3 licks in their hands, or if you have a paddle where you can get them like 3 to 5 licks on their rear end. But I don't just believe in just right out whipping them with a cord or whipping them with a stick.
But you said you got beat with all that stuff.
Yeah, but it didn't really take all that once you look back. Once
you look back. It didn't take all that, but you said you stayed out the penitentiary.
Yeah, but once you look back, you'll see that, if it didn't take that for me, I don't think it'd take that for my children. But I do think my children need to be spanked on their hand, on their rear end, but not to the point that I'm whipping them, putting whips on them where blood is gushing out the whips. Them. No, whips, the scars.
No, but you said it doesn't take whipping them, but that is what it is, a whipping.
I'm saying, putting whips on them. Whelps on them, whelps on them to cause, blood trauma that can burst out of their skins. Because that's how we used to get beat back in the day.
Did you?
Even with switches.
But you find
Switches damage your skin. But they just don't. When you don't have both parents, we just have only one parent.
But you didn't have both parents.
No, I did. But I'm talking about nowadays. The child only has one parent, and once that mother, who's a single mother, who's struggling to keep food on the table, who's struggling to go to school, she's working a full-time job, she's a full-time student, she probably got set back in life because some dreams that were sold to her early in life by some scam booger who really didn't want her, but just was all into obsession and infatuation, just had sexual tendencies that he wanted to express toward a woman to take out some of his anger and dysfunction upon, because he really didn't know what love, was at the time. It's just he was expressing what he learned from the streets or other, people that he knew, his peers. So I think children, should be disciplined. I don't think you should whip them with cords and long switches, but I do think that they should be, punished. Taking, like Dula said, you have to take away the cell phone or the electronic device that they're using, the video game, whatever it is that they're using. You have to take that for like a week or 2, or maybe just for 24 hours, and allow them to learn their lesson. Because when you see them on the news being beaten down in the streets by the law enforcement, community, it's not because the police is prejudiced or he racist. May have some. I'm not saying all. We may have some races or prejudice or bias police officers, but I don't think that's always the case. If they don't know how to respect in a home, they most definitely won't know how to respect the law enforcement out there who's protecting and serving our community.
So how do you get them to respect law enforcement if they're not respecting you in the home? If there's no respect, and
they're gonna get beat in the street. If they don't respect that home, they won't respect the law.
Dula brought up a very good point, a very valid point. I would say not only good but valid. He said that the children see us behaving and in our natural setting, and they see the way that we interact and engage, and so they in suit feel that they can do the same thing. And so,
well, Christian people know what the Bible said, Dr. Rich.
They're respect. Christians. Well, I'm not just talking about Christians, though. I'm just not talking about believers.
They know that the Bible said, provoke not your children to wrath. They quote the scripture all the time. They need to stop quoting it and start living it. You can't have little John having 5 daddies in 6 months.
Wow.
Or Miss Susie having a stepmother every other 6 months. You have to teach your children to keep certain perversions and certain temptations away from your children. You can't provoke that to them because they're going to pick it up.
Well, so are you pro corporal punishment or anti-corporal punishment?
I'm pro.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so I want to change the dynamics just a moment. We're getting ready to go to a commercial break.
I mean, I'll whip you on it.
Oh, you better stop. You better stop laughing at that foolishness.
I mean, you have to submit, and people in my house got to submit.
Eat the cake out of me.
When I come home, if I have children in my house, my children gonna follow the role of their mother. If their mother submit, everybody that's behind her is gonna have to submit to the dad.
What did I turn the phone?
He ain't gonna whoop me, back. He don't fight me. Listen. Your family want you to stay alive, If they want you to stay alive, they better stop advising you.
My family know I'm still alive. But they know in my house, for me in my house, we're going to serve Yahuwah.
Yeah. Well, listen, after, on the other side of this break, we're going to discuss, let me say, a lot of people are saying marriage is antiquated. They want the benefits of marriage, but they don't want that quote-unquote piece of paper. So let me tell you, we're not talking about the deals necessarily, but I want to ask and I want to present to you a little something about, is marriage just a piece of paper? Is it antiquated? I mean, is there any usefulness in actually going before a pastor, sinful pastor, preacher, or judge to have
sinful?
Now, I'll talk about it after the break. We'll be right back with Candid Conversation.
I don't understand that.
It's all about me.
Are you pro corporal punishment, anti corporal punishment?